Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches,
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
the players,
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
the recruits,
Show some passion and some heart.
and those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the
All
SEC.
those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU
What
talk.
a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and hosts Todd Horn, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Gilbo.
You're real players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
And good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Tiger Rag Radio, post-game edition after Game 8 of the Men's College World Series, even though Game 9 has already been played and Game 10 will be ongoing when we're...
Until the rain comes.
Yeah, until the rain comes. And did the rain come Monday night? That's for sure, along with lightning and thunder and all that kind of stuff. But it made for a very fun and enjoyable morning. Got a little hairy there in the 8th inning when UCLA got back within 3, but LSU getting that big insurance run in the bottom of the 8th. They go on to beat UCLA today 9-5 to go to 2-0 in the College World Series. LSU now 3 wins away from their 8th national championship. Again, Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director, Louisiana Radio Network, inside the Super Chevy Dealers studio. Also inside the Super Chevy Dealers studio is Todd Horn, the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine and TigerRag.com. And Glenn Gilbo joining us from Omaha, Nebraska, the editor of Tiger Rag Magazine. And guys, today's game about as, well, I shouldn't say today's game, the game, since it started Monday night and lasted until Tuesday, this is about as satisfying as a victory as you could possibly would want to see. You get down early 3-0, you respond, you deal with the weather delay, you get up early, you score 2 runs right off the bat in the 4th inning. Case and Evans is fantastic. And then your bullpen, even though Cooper Williams was a little shaky with the walks, your bullpen shuts it down, and LSU wins it 9-5, 50th win of the season. And as I mentioned, 3 wins away from winning another national championship. Glenn, your thoughts on what you've been able to see here the last 2 games?
Well, I thought it was cool that Chase Shores, when he went in trouble in the 8th, he didn't throw enough pitches to walk anybody. He just threw 1 pitch, and he was out of there. Yeah. You see that so often. They bring in a reliever, and he throws 1 pitch. But, no, Chase has done well his last couple of games, but, he's got the potential to be a little shaky.
Yeah.
Cooper was a little shaky, but he was all right. Kaysen was great, right until the 8th. He kind of lost it a little bit for a minute. But, and some hitters who haven't been hitting are suddenly hitting again. Jared Jones, it's a big home run, and he got another RBI. And Daniel Dickinson broke a 2 for 24 slump when he got the RBI single in the 8th inning there to put him up 9. But yeah, they're starting to hit on all cylinders, and they got plenty of pitching that they can come back to now. To get to the finals and to win it.
Todd, your thoughts?
Well, I'm going to echo some of what Glenn said, but my biggest thought was LSU playing UCLA in baseball or softball? Because all those softballs UCLA hit to score all their runs in the 1st inning, and then the runs they scored later in the game when it was resumed today were also on hits that didn't go out of the infield. But having said that, I think LSU's defense played exceptional. Of course, Case and Evans was great today. LSU's 7 for 14 with 2 outs today, and their last 5 runs scored today also came with 2 outs. So I thought that was a big key.
What was it? 7 of 14
with 2 outs
and runners on base. Is
Yep.
that okay?
And with their last 5 runs came with 2 outs.
And that has been a mark of this team all season long, really. I mean, they've had a lot of games like that where they have been very good and scoring runs in bunches, in fact, with 2 runs.
Yeah, and Stephen Milam is now batting .444 in the NCAA tournament. He's 12 for 27 with 11 walks. So he's really coming through. So everything we've talked about for the last couple of weeks, especially offensively, that this team needs to do, like Glenn said, they're actually doing it right now.
But for them to go ahead, Glenn. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, Jay likes to call those 2-out RBI hits goldens, and they had those, coming out all over the place. And they also hit really well with 2 strikes. And the John Savage, the UCLA coach, mentioned both of those things. He said they just had a really good approach the whole game. And at one point he said, I don't want to talk about these guys like they're the Yankees, but they had a really good approach and we just couldn't contain them. And he said that, his pitching just couldn't handle them. They got, LSU had 12 hits and UCLA used 8 pitchers, and LSU got at least 1 hit off of 6 of those pitchers, and they scored off of 5 of those pitchers. So it really didn't matter who was pitching for UCLA. They hit them all.
How they responded in the first inning, though, was so impressive because it was a very frustrating top of the first inning. Really one hard hit ball against Anthony Ianson, and yet he still gives up 3 runs. And then Derek Carriel leads off that inning. He doesn't get on base, which usually he does. So he doesn't get on base, and you're like, okay. But then Fry and Milam able to get on, and then Jared Jones to redeem himself, if you would, after going 0 for 5 with 5 strikeouts on Saturday to hit that 3-run blast. I mean, that was about as impressive as it gets.
Yeah, and it really just answered UCLA, and Coach Savage said that too. He said every time he thought they were gaining some momentum, LSU just hammered them, with 4 runs in the first. And then when they come back from the rain delay, the next morning, today, Kaysen shuts them down in the first inning, and then they get 2 more runs, and then UCLA catches up a little bit with 2 in the 8th, and LSU adds another one in the 9th. So they just answered them each time they needed to, and they just their talent surplus over UCLA just showed.
Hey, Glenn, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but is that the weather looks good for tomorrow. The forecast is good for tomorrow, but tonight's game between Arkansas and UCLA, the elimination game, probably will not be finished tonight, is what I understand. Is that correct?
Well, you're right. There is bad weather in the forecast, and it does get better tomorrow. But there was also bad weather in the forecast throughout this morning and this afternoon that LSU and UCLA played through. And I think sometimes the mistake people make with the radar, there can be rain on the radar, and most of the time it's going to hit, but sometimes it doesn't. I mean, we saw that in Alex Fox a couple of times. So you got to kind of have to wait and see. And they don't have time to wait that long here because they only have so many days. They used to schedule kind of rain days here at Omaha, but they sandwiched them in. That's why they played last night or tried to get 3 innings in. So I think you'll see that tonight. Even if there's bad weather coming, they're still going to try to get in as many innings as they can before they suspend the game if indeed that happens.
Okay, let's pretend like that does happen. It's a repeat of last night. They start, Arkansas is going back to Zach Root to start tonight. I don't know who UCLA is going with, but let's say they do start. They get in three innings. Root's done. What's the situation? Who's got the advantage? Does LSU have the advantage heading into a 6 o'clock tomorrow evening matchup, especially if Arkansas's ruined or burned Root?
Well, I think the teams that are 2-0 have the advantage, and LSU has some time off, more so than the others. But I don't know if all that matters. The UCLA has a lot of pitching left. Arkansas has a lot of pitching left. So I just don't think you could say, LSU has the advantage here. I think it would be best for LSU if UCLA eliminated Arkansas, but I still think it's anybody's game.
Glenn Gilbo from Omaha, Nebraska. Todd Horn. I'm Jeff Palermo. The way this team has handled all these weather situations this season has been impressive. I mean, I guess the only time that I don't want to say they didn't handle it, it just didn't work out in their favor is when they had to play that doubleheader against Texas A&M. But still, they split that doubleheader. But other than that, usually whenever they've been moving these games around, and I guess the Northwestern State game, how could I forget that tragic midweek loss? They didn't perform very well in that game. But maybe they learned something. But maybe they learned something from that because they did come out flat, and Northwestern State took it to them. And I would imagine even though it was mid-game, instead of just waiting until 10 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night to play a game, which LSU has done, they've been through this so many times. And so you felt good that LSU was going to respond appropriately today after having the game suspended. And I still go back to that first inning because imagine if LSU doesn't respond, the game gets halted after the third inning, and LSU's down 3-0. Man, that would have resulted in a very restless night for LSU. But the fact that they did, I mean, I know they tacked on runs late in the game, but they literally won this game in the bottom of the first.
Yeah, and, it's amazing. There's UCLA and La La Land. They had exactly 0 weather delays until last night. That was the first one they ever had. The coach is like, "What do you mean we got to play again tonight?" He said after the game, he said it's the first doubleheader he can remember. Yeah, so LSU's used to their schedule being changed, their sleep clock being changed, all that stuff. Of course, that doesn't affect young kids as much as older, but
still, the fact they got up, they had to play a game at 8 o'clock their time, their regular time. I mean that's not easy, and you go, and I don't know what the atmosphere. I mean, it was kind of it seemed a little bit. I don't want to say dead, but it certainly wasn't the normal College World Series atmosphere at 10 a.m. But you weren't getting the normal adrenaline that you get when there's 20,000 plus fans there.
No, that's the negative end of the Jello shot domination. They were all in bed still. Jay even mentioned that. He said there weren't a lot of people at the hotel doing the send off like there usually is. Yeah,
that was a good line from Jay.
Late. Yeah, they're out late doing the Jello shots. Yeah, LSU is used to playing at any time of day. And, today, I brought this up in my story, today was the earliest time they ever had to go to the ballpark for a game. It wasn't the start of a game, but the 10:03 start is the earliest they've ever had in Omaha, because the earliest in the past was like noon for the championship game. And Joe Macalusa told us that in 1987 they had a similar situation, and it was before noon, but he didn't think it was 10 a.m.
Yeah.
So that was different, but they can do all that. They've obviously shown that.
They've had plenty of, not necessarily this team, but there's been SEC tournament games that start that early, but College World Series game, not that early, that's for sure. Hey, let's take a break. Want to talk about, when we come back, about a little bit more on the pitching and what LSU may do tomorrow night, and also we got to throw out some kudos to Kason Evans. Just another terrific outing here today. He has really come up big in the postseason, so we'll get to that. Hey, coming up later on in the show, looking forward to hearing from ESPN College Game Day host Reese Davis. He's going to be on the show on Tiger Rag Radio, so stay tuned for that. Much more coming up from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Welcome to the Chevy Lightning Round. Guess the clues to win. First team, you're up.
Powerful, commanding, unstoppable.
Silverado.
Adventurous, fun, techie.
Trailblazer.
Stylish, nimble.
Trax.
Innovative, electric.
Blazer EV.
Lightning Round champions. You've guessed all the right Chevy clues.
Wherever the year takes you, explore it together in the Chevy of your choice. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
Good idea. 1-800-673-5555.
I want to be under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horn, and the editor, Glenn Gilbo. Again, coming up later on in the show, Reese Davis from ESPN. Coming up in the next segment, looking forward to this, Glenn, Pat McAvoy, the manager over at Rocco's Pizza and Cantina. Boy, did they make some business last night with the rain delay. Must have been a good night over there. Dave Schultz will join us, the host of Locked On Sunbelt. LSU and Coastal Carolina. Looks like a collision between these two teams. A rematch of that 2016 Super Regional Series. We might see that here in the College World Series Championship Series, and then Scott Rabelais will join us as well later on in hour number 2. But I wanted to talk a little bit about Case and Evans. And Glenn, and you've been covering LSU baseball a lot longer than I have, and you wrote a book, basically the biography on Skip Bertman, so you know LSU baseball history very well. And Alex Lang he was the National Freshman Pitcher of the Year in 2015. He went 12-0 with a 1.97 ERA. I would say back in 2015, I almost said back then, like it's, many years ago, but in 2015 and like during that period, in the middle, like 20 teens, if you would, that was kind of the dead ball era of college baseball. The ball wasn't really flying out. The bats didn't have much of the bats weren't all that great. And if you look at, when the ball became a little bit more livelier, the next following season, Lang had an ERA close to 4. But in 2015, he went 12-0 and 1.97 ERA. Case and Evans, after his performance today, he's 5-1 with a 2.05 ERA and 7 saves. So the question I was about ready to get to here, Glenn, is he having the best freshman season of an LSU pitcher ever?
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to argue with Alex's there, but Kaysen has more pitches than Alex.
Yes, Alex Lang was a 2-pitch pitcher.
Exactly. Yeah. Probably not enough wins. Though if you add his saves, he's at 12.
Yeah.
But anyway, I would say he's definitely in that neighborhood. Because. And like Jay said today, freshmen usually, like even Aaron Nola didn't have a great freshman year.
No.
Took him a little while. Chad Ojay took him a little while. So yeah, he's definitely in the top 2 or 3.
Well, what cements it to me is his last 2 he pitched in Arkansas where he got the save. So if you want to count that, that's fine. But I'm looking at the Little Rock game and the UCLA game. The second Little Rock game, or I guess the third game, the championship game of the regional, where you needed someone to go out there and shove, else your season was either against Little Rock, you're going to be eliminated, or 2, this one you would have been, your backs would have been put up against the wall. You were on the brink of elimination if you ended up didn't lose it. And this guy came out, and if you combine the Little Rock game and this UCLA game, he goes 10 1/3 innings, and he allows 3 runs. I mean, and he strikes out 17 combined in those 2 games. I mean, just impressive when the chips are on the line. This guy has been humongous for LSU.
Yeah, and in a way, his job is more difficult than Cade Anderson and Anthony Ianson because they know they're just going to start the first 2 games.
Yeah.
Kaysen doesn't know if he's going to come in after a rain delay or if he's going to come in for middle relief or set up close or start, a rain, the next day. He thought he was going to pitch last night and then he had to wait overnight. So yeah, he's like the jack of all trades. And like I wrote today, especially of the younger pitchers and probably of all their pitchers, I mean, he's so dependable, whereas some of these other guys, you just never know what you're going to get because he doesn't walk anybody. He's had a couple of games where he walked people. But he didn't walk anybody today, and you could just count on him. And I thought that's why he was going to start this morning.
Yeah.
Even though I was in the minority, and I wrote about that today too. Everybody else was saying all these other pitchers, and I said, man, you got to go with Kaysen in this type game.
Yeah, I was Kaysen when I went to sleep last night, and that was before I read your article, Glenn. But then when I read it this morning, me and you were on the same page, and then I started breaking down who UCLA had up in the fourth, and they had 3 left-handers up, and I said, well, maybe he goes with Cooper Williams just to get through that first, the fourth inning. But I thought Evans was the logical choice because not only is he's your best arm available, but he's a guy that can give you length. And he gave you 4 in the third innings. He gave you exactly what you needed out of him tonight. So on that thought, go ahead, unless you got a quick thought here.
Well, I was just going to say, you can't fall into that trap of always lefty-righty.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, people were saying that you got to go with Cooper, but I think you go with your best pitcher regardless of the side of the arm.
No, you're right. All right, so we got just like 30 seconds here before we talk Jello shots.
Well, let me have one right now.
Well, Glenn, are you going to come back on the show? What are we doing here?
I'm gonna stay with McAvoy.
Okay.
And for the rest of the first hour.
Okay. All right. So we'll get to it later then. Who you think they should start tomorrow night in the bracket championship game, if you would? All right, Todd Horn, Glenn Guilbeau, Jackson Blackman. I'm Jeff Palermo. This is Tiger Rag Radio. We're talking Jello shots when we come back. Pat McAvoy, the manager at Rocco's Pizza and Cantina, he'll join us when we come back on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
June is jumping at your East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Take part in the Summer Reading Challenge with incentives for kids, teens, and adults. They also have events galore for all ages, like Movies on the Plaza, the Cool Careers Summer Series, and so much more. Check out details online at ebrpl.com. That's ebrpl.com.
Tiger Rag Radio is back on the air, live from Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Yeah, we're back here on Tiger Rag Radio. Jeff Palermo, News and Sports Director of Louisiana Radio Network, along with the Executive Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horn, the Editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Glenn Guilbeau in Omaha. And also joining us from Omaha, it's the manager of the Rocco's Pizza and Cantina, home of the world-famous Jello shot competition, Pat McAvoy, joining us on Tiger Rag Radio. Pat, thanks a lot for spending a few minutes with us tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing well. We're surviving. We're keeping strong.
So where are we at with LSU? How strong are they as far as the Jello shot competition, and do they have a chance to break their record that they set in 2023?
I always say, they're right now. They're as of the last update, which was the 5 o'clock update. They were sitting around 19,500, somewhere in that range. So they've got a respectable number, but obviously not quite to the 68,888 mark yet. What it takes is sticking around. The more games you play, the more chances you have to purchase Jello, I guess. So we still have some heavy hitters in. Todd Graves hasn't come in, and he was in yesterday, but he hasn't dropped much Jello money yet. So I'm sure that number will take a boost in the next couple of days. But they're still hanging in there for sure.
Okay, so Pat, what are the rules for this competition? You mentioned Todd Graves, and I know Gordon McKernan has got somebody there that's supposedly buying 888 shots a day.
Yeah, you bet.
So does all that go together, or is it just it doesn't matter who buys it, or whether it's a bulk buy, or whether it's go ahead.
Yeah. So what happens? Yeah. So what happens is you have to be present. Todd was here yesterday with Paul Skeens and Livy Dunn, and they bought a couple trays, but nothing too crazy. And Paul actually bought a couple hundred and said just pass them out to Tiger fans throughout the bar, and so we did that. Gordon Will Helmers, who was on that 2023 squad that won it, he pitched for him, and so yeah, he comes in every day. He says, "Hey, I'm going to do the 888 by, and I give him a couple of racks and walks around and hands them out. And then, a couple hours later, he'll come back and, all right, Pat, give me a couple more racks. I'm going to pass them out. And so we can't, the liquor commission gets a little uneasy if we just hand someone, 8,888 Jello shots or 6,000 Jello shots in a bar that holds 300 people. So to do it responsibly, we just couple racks, and then we say, all right, every couple hours we'll give you a couple more and a couple more, and throughout the course of the day, they all get handed out. But it's kind of a long form situation when they buy that amount.
Well, I would imagine that sometimes it gets a little rowdy and maybe even cantankerous in there between the fans. Or am I wrong about that?
No, I mean it's been there's so many fans. Right, it's sort of there are only a few bad actors is all it takes. You know what I mean? So if you have 100,000 fans, you can't really damn a fan base for for 5 people that are throwing them back and getting a little rowdy. And that's kind of how it happens. Is that we just have to we take care of it. We have a lot of security on hand, and we make sure everybody's staying safe and everybody's staying as a fan, they can be passionate, but they can't be aggressive.
Pat, how did this glorious tradition begin? Whose idea was it, hey, why don't we come up with Jello shots in the team's colors? Or was it just like a novelty thing and you had no idea? You could not have imagined it would take off like it has.
No, absolutely not. The initial, the initial one was, the start was the 2011 final between Florida and South Carolina, the first year that it was played in the new ballpark. And, that South Carolina, or the Florida fans were down. They wanted to rally shots, so one of the bartenders makes them something, and I just happened to be walking by. And, I was like, oh, yeah, you got that. And so I told the South Carolina fans that the Florida fans had rally shots, and they were like, we want rally shots too. They can't have, we want shots. So I was kind of pitting them back and forth, and I thought it was a funny deal. And then I was sitting at a dueling piano bar watching Creighton and Nebraska play basketball that winter. And in Omaha, that's a big deal, because you can be a Nebraska football fan, but some of the people who live in Omaha are still Jays basketball fans and not Nebraska basketball fans. There's a whole J-Sker situation, it's contentious. And so the dueling piano guys, one of them was playing Let's Go Jays, the other guy's playing Go Big Red, and whoever had more money in their tip jar, that was who was leading the chant. And so people are like, I mean, it was cartoonish. They were throwing chairs out of the way, to tripping over each other to pour money into the tip jars. I thought, these guys are geniuses. They just found a way to incentivize fan bases to tip them. And so when the next series rolled around in 2012, I said, hey, I'm going to try to do this. Everyone thinks their fan base is the best, but the only way to prove it is to make it, make it a number, quantify it somehow. And so I started selling shots in each team color. They weren't Jello at the time. And we wrote it up on a big chalkboard and called it good. And then in 2019, when Kevin, the owner, the new owner, when he took over the space and made it Rocco's, he was like, hey, what if we just make it these prepackaged Jello shots? That way we can just hand them out. You don't have to set out 20 shot glasses and pour. And so, but even then the number was 864 was the most that year. You know what I mean? And it was Arkansas, and they came and ran us out of Jello, so we still had to free pour. And, then nothing 2021, Mississippi State comes, and Kevin had made a plaque, an all-time record plaque, so Mississippi State sees that, and they're going for it, so they go 2,965. And then, obviously, I started the social media for it the next year, and it blew up. I mean, I had 17 followers on Monday and 17,000 by the end of the weekend, and that's the year that it really took a hard uptick.
Glenn, you got a question?
Yeah, I was wondering like in 23 when LSU set the record, was your biggest day when they won the championship, like that night, or is there a certain time of day that LSU fans drink, time of day of the game that they do more Jello shots? Like, what do you prefer?
Everybody comes in before and does them because we're right across the street from gate 2, so it's an easy place to stop if you can get in. I mean, obviously there's a line out the door most of the time, but people come in before the game and rip a couple, and then they always come back after. I mean, some people are here before the first game, after the first game, before the second game, after the second game. I mean, some people just come in. Some people aren't going to the game at all. Some people are just coming to party and rip a bunch of Jello shots. So there's not necessarily you see the swells before and after the game for sure. The biggest day, were the days like the sales wise, the biggest days were the days that Todd did 6,000, and Gordon did the 8,888. Shane Morrison, who's a big LSU guy too, he bought 6,001 just because he didn't want Todd to have the record like 2 days after Todd did it. So that was a pretty good one too. But yeah, it's cool, and those guys know. We told them, we're like, hey, it's unlikely that you're going to get all 6,000 or 6,001, 8,888 of your Jello shots passed out today, and we can't carry them over to the next day because everything bought that day has to be consumed that day. And they're like, we don't care. The fact that it's a charitable aspect is what they cared about, and that's what makes this thing cool. Is that Kevin and Bonnie, the owners, after we blew up on social media, they decided that it wasn't just going to be to do something cool with the fame, and so they started donating to the food bank. So it started out with just Ole Miss and Arkansas, and in the 22 year, and we donated $2 from every shot to just those two schools, and then the next year they decided, hey, $1 from every shot is going to that school's food bank, and 50 cents from every shot is staying in Omaha or the Omaha Metro for food banks to fight insecurity. So to date, we've raised over $350,000 through this thing, and just years, and hoping that number just goes up.
Pat, does rain help or does rain hurt?
Oh, rain delay is my favorite two words. I mean, because they cleared the stadium last night, obviously, and there's nowhere to go. Like you're going to stick around to see if they get it in tonight. So you flood Rocco's, you drink, and if you can go back into the game, you go back in. If you can't, then you come back and you drink, or you stay and drink. You know what I mean? So no, rain delay is our favorite two words in the bar business down here for sure. Because like I said, they're not going back to their hotel room. What if they start the game in 40 minutes? You know what I mean? It's a lot of fun, and it's cool too because everybody knows what they're in for, and everybody's getting along at that point in time, and everybody's just kind of amped up for the game. And there's been years where we get a sing-along, a Take Me Home Country Road, where all the fans are, singing together or something. There's just a lot of cool camaraderie because everyone's just psyched about baseball.
When's the official cutoff date?
So we'll sell until basically like when we do last call, the last night of the series, just before we do last call, Kevin will come out, the owner, and we get behind the bar, me, Kevin and Kevin's two sons that also manage the bar, JD and Tucker, that we'll all go behind the bar. We'll have Jello shots with us. Kevin will, I'll tell Kevin, hey, this is the number. He'll write it on a piece of paper. There's a blank plaque right above the shot board, and we do a big thing. He blows his coach's whistle. He was a football coach for years, and so he blows his coach's whistle, and the team knows they've won it. It's after the championship is over, and everybody's partying in here, and so he'll slap that year's number up there, and everybody goes nuts. And if it's again, if it's LSU, we're playing calling Baton Rouge, and everybody's chanting LSU, and we rip some Jello shots and maybe some bottle shots. I mean, at that point in time, alcohol doesn't affect you because you're so tired. But it's always a pretty cool tradition.
Pat, thanks a lot. We'll let you get back to your business. We appreciate it, man.
Absolutely, fellas. Good talking to you.
All right, Pat McAvoy, manager at Rocco's Pizza and Cantina. Dave Schultz, host of Locked On Sunbelt, talk Coastal Carolina when we come back from the Super Chevy Dealer studio on Tiger Rag Radio.
You should call that radio station and let him have it.
Good idea. 1-800-673-5555.
I want to be under the bright lights. I want to be on the Broadway stage.
Tiger Rag Radio is on now.
Been quite a day in Omaha. Of course, LSU's win over UCLA, and then what a finish to the Louisville-Oregon State game. It looked like Oregon State was going to win in the ninth, and then they ended up only tying the game because in
the top of the ninth, Oregon scored 2 runs.
Yeah, they had a 2-run lead. Oregon State ties it, and they got the tying run at third and the go-ahead run at second, I think, with nobody out.
Mm-hmm.
And Louisville got out of the inning, so it was 6-6, and then Louisville
in the bottom of the ninth
scores, walks off Oregon State, ending the Beaver season. So it's Louisville and Coastal Carolina tomorrow in the semifinal round of the College World Series. And Arkansas, UCLA just underway. UCLA loads the bases, and with 2 outs, they try to steal home. And it's a bang-bang play. They call them out at home, or the umpire calls them out, and then they go to the video replay or video review. And I don't know, it was tough. It was
But they called him out ultimately.
Yeah, they called him out, and they almost got the Zach Root again. I thought they were going to have to pull Zach Root early. But anyways, our next guest here on the Max Home Hotline is not here to talk about Arkansas or UCLA. He's here to talk about Coastal Carolina, who LSU could quite possibly play in the championship series of the College World Series. It's our good old friend, new friend, however you want to describe him, Dave Schultz from, of course, the host of Locked On Sunbelt. Schultz, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Jeffrey. How's it going, guys?
Doing well. Great hearing your voice.
Hey, Dave, I've got a quick question for you.
This is probably the most important question of the show.
And I'm dead serious. I know we watched Coach Schnall, in the post-game press conference recite it over and over again, but we still can't get our diction down. Tell us how to say Shante. What is it? How do you say it?
Chanticleers.
Chanticleers.
Soft. It's a soft A. Not shant.
Not shant.
Chanticleers.
Chanticleers.
Hold on. You guys are trying to tell me that people in Louisiana can't get their diction down? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Hey, I guess. I mean, at least in our small collective here.
So, all right, that was the most important question. The second most important question: how good is this Coastal Carolina team? And are they like sitting in a hotel room right now, just getting hit by pitches? Is that how they play?
Yeah. I guess so. I mean, they scored 6 runs the other day on like 5 base hits.
Yeah.
I mean, they were dominating the ball game, and then you look up and you're like, well, they didn't get that many base hits because they got on base via an error and a hit by pitch and a walk, and they almost got out of it because the umpire called them back because he got hit on ball 4, so they struck him out, but they got a bases clearing double that made it 3-0, and then they allowed another run on an error, and another run came home on a wild pitch because the error was an inning-ending double play that they didn't turn. So they all of a sudden get 6 runs, and five of them were via mistakes from Oregon State. So they've won 25 ball games in a row. That's unheard of in baseball, right?
Wow.
We've seen as good as you guys have seen as great as LSU baseball teams as there are. And if they win like 10 in a row, that's really good for LSU, right? And so they've won 25 in a row. And I'm sure coming into the NCAA tournament, well, that's just the Sun Belt. Well, they went on they swept Clemson this year. They beat them at their place, and they beat them in Conway. They won the regional relatively easily, and then they went into Auburn, and maybe caught a couple of breaks. They had a couple of line-out double plays, in the 9th inning in a threat, where Auburn decided not to lay down a bunt with runners on at first and second, and they got a strikeout and then a line-out double play, and then they got a line-out double play to end the ball game in the 10th. And then they just continued to roll. They, again, it would be a great opportunity if we'd got a Cade Anderson from the left side and a Jacob Morrison from the right side, but I'm not so sure we're going to get that, just the way it's been going for the last month. But Coastal Carolina is really good. The one thing they are missing, they don't have a Jared Jones in the lineup. They don't have a big thumper in the lineup. They got a couple of guys who can hit home runs. They do have a lot of speed. They do steal bases. They have over 100 bases, and they have a bunch of guys who can do that.
Hey,
but they don't have the big thumper in the middle who can necessarily hit home runs. They have a couple of guys who can hit home runs. They have a bunch of guys who can hit a few home runs, but they don't have the big power-hitting guy.
And Arkansas just hit a home run. Aloy, his 21st, 2-0. Hey, Dave, let's take a quick break, and then we come back. We'll wrap up the hour with you if you have this. We just got to get this last break out of the way. We talked too long to the guy from Rocco's. I'm sorry. My apologies on that. But we'll get back to more Coastal baseball. Chanticleers, right? Am I right? Chanticleers.
I'm working with him.
All right. We'll take a break. More of Tiger Rag Radio after this.
Welcome to the Chevy Lightning Round. Guess the clues to win. First team, you're up.
Powerful, commanding, unstoppable.
Silverado.
Adventurous, fun, techie.
Trailblazer.
Stylish, nimble.
Tracks.
Innovative, electric.
Blazer EV.
Lightning Round champions. You've guessed all the right Chevy clues.
Wherever the year takes you, explore it together in the Chevy of your choice. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
A sizzling T-bone steak, a mouth-watering char-grilled hamburger, a slow-smoked fork-tender brisket. There are plenty of reasons to grill beef this summer. Beef is packed with protein, and with 29 cuts of lean beef to choose from, there's always something succulent to serve to your family. So this weekend and all summer long, be the hero of your backyard barbecue by serving what everybody wants, the delicious taste of beef. So remember, beef. It's what's for dinner. Brought to you by the Louisiana Cattle Producers through the Louisiana Beef Industry Council and the Beef Checkoff.
Cummins is known for their commitment to quality, performance, and products that are built to last. They make it their business to understand their customers' priorities and partner in their success. Cummins has the technical expertise and experience to deliver fast, high-quality repairs using genuine parts. And by calling 1-800-CUMMINS, you have access to one of the largest and most capable sales, service, and support organizations in the industry 24/7. For more information on Cummins products, service, or support, call 1-800-CUMMINS.
You work hard every day to pursue a life you love. You put in the time, and it shows. You're forging ahead, chasing a dream, creating something better for the ones you love. You're building your own life. So why not build your own tractor? With John Deere tractors and attachments for almost any need, the Sunshine team can help you do just that. Check out our current promotions and learn more about what it means to be powered by Sunshine at sunequip.com.
Now, back to Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
All right, a few more minutes here with Dave Schultz, host of the Locked On Sunbelt podcast. And, of course, he's watched a lot of Coastal Carolina baseball. Todd, I think you got a question for Dave.
Yeah, I do. Actually, Dave, I want you to clarify what you said earlier, that we may not get to see or probably won't get to see the Morrison versus Anderson.
Yeah.
What were you saying about that?
Yeah, because so I'm sure it happens in the SEC, right? Everything moves up before the conference tournament, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So Morrison did not move up. Morrison pitched on Friday, and so he didn't move up to Thursday. And so same thing happened in the conference tournament. He didn't pitch Wednesday or Thursday. He stayed on Friday. And then in the regional, he pitched on Saturday. And then he just pitched on Sunday. So he hasn't pitched on short rest in over a month. So you could look at it that he's well rested, but he just hasn't pitched in short rest all year, at least for the last 4 weeks. All right. I can't tell you, I've been watching Coastal Carolina since February. So he hasn't moved up one day when he very easily could have at any point in time in the last month.
Okay.
So he would be on 5 days rest instead of 6, right? He pitched on Sunday, and he would pitch on Saturday. So he could be, it's his last outing, right? He's not coming back again, right, at all. And so he could pitch. He could do it. I'm just telling you what has happened over the last month. He just has not pitched on short rest. Now, depending on what happens on Wednesday, you most likely would have Cam Fluke, who's a really good right-hander. I'm not sure what they were trying to do. It felt like Kevin Schnall was pulling a Sean Payton, being the smartest man in the room, pitching 2 guys in one game, but whatever. Kevin Schnall, I don't know what he was doing, but instead of just pitching Cam Fluke, he pitched both him and Riley Eichhoff. I think Riley Eichhoff is going to pitch on Wednesday, and if it goes well, they don't have to pitch on Thursday. Cam Fluke will most likely go against Cade Anderson. Anderson is better than Fluke, although not that much better, but Fluke's really good. He's not Jacob Morrison, but Fluke's pretty good, and he would be well rested going into that ball game on Saturday. But it just wouldn't be Cade Anderson versus Jacob Morrison, at least not based on the last 4 weeks. But it could be he would be on 5 days rest instead of 6. It just hasn't been that way over the last month.
Got about a minute left here, Glenn. Get your question in.
Yeah,
Knob
Dave,
Creek 12. Buy Knob Creek 12. What did I say that out loud? Am I allowed to say that?
Go ahead.
Hey, Dave, I just wanted to know how you feel about one of your best buddies being back in the Carolinas, Will Wade.
How about that? Good for him. Got a chance to see him in Lake Charles. Nice run for him this past year, and I like the way he handled it and all those things that he did about being straightforward with his players. And I don't think it was a big secret. And I think he's going to do real well at NC State. He'll spice up the ACC a little bit. We'll see if the Orange get to play NC State this year. We'll have some fun with that for sure.
Dave, thanks a lot, man. We appreciate it. we'll see what happens, but I really think it's going to be LSU and Coastal, and it should be a fun championship series.
It will be if both teams get that far. It certainly will be. Thanks, guys.
All right. Take care, my friend. Great hearing from you.
He didn't say anything about Jello shots. Nothing.
Reese Davis will not be talking about Jello shots either, but we will talk with him next. The ESPN College Game Day host. He'll join us. Special guest coming up on the Max Home Hotline here on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Yeah. Let's go. Come on.
Tiger Rag Radio is on the air.
Let's crank this thing up.
We're statewide, breaking down the latest happenings with LSU athletics.
This is us.
Hear from the coaches,
Put together a defense that puts us in a position to win the SEC.
the players,
Having fun and we working, baby. That's it, baby.
the recruits,
Show some passion and some heart.
and those who cover the Fighting Tigers of LSU and the
All
SEC.
those things are going to be there, which are important.
It's 2 hours of nonstop LSU
What
talk.
a privilege. I mean, you get to represent LSU.
Tiger Rag Radio is brought to you by Cummins. Cummins creates power solutions that the world depends on. Helm Paint and Decorating. The paint experts of Louisiana. Louisiana Beef Industry Council. Max Home. And the East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Get ready to talk Tigers with producer Jackson Blackman and hosts Todd Horn, Jeff Palermo, and Glenn Gilbo.
Teams have players that are better people than they are players.
This is Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealers Studio.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealers Studio. And joining us on the Max Home Hotline, a very, very special guest, does obviously a fantastic job on ESPN College Game Day. We all know him. Reese Davis joining us on the Max Home Hotline, along with Tiger Rag editor Glenn Gilbo. Reese, thanks a lot for spending some time with us tonight. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you guys?
We are doing excellent. Tremendous interview, to steal a word from Ed Orgeron, tremendous, but a tremendous interview with Coach Brian Kelly on the ESPN College Game Day podcast. For anybody that has not seen it or watched it or seen it or heard it, I certainly go back and listen to it. One of the things that I have found covering Coach Brian Kelly since he arrived is just how open he is. He is very transparent. I think he's more transparent than most college football coaches, and you catch him in the middle of the offseason where he's not as guarded. What did you think? What were some of your big takeaways coming away from doing that interview with Coach BK?
Well, I think that, well, first of all, BK is one of the smartest guys in coaching. There are a lot of smart guys. But, like some of the things, I think he would have preferred to spend the entire interview talking about the season and his team. But given the things that had happened with the House settlement and all of the changes with revenue sharing coming, I couldn't think of a better guy to talk to about that, a guy who would be more candid. Whether you agree with him or not is sort of immaterial. He is thoughtful and smart, and so you ask him about things like that. So that I think his candor about it and the way that, he and his family have been generous toward making sure that the NIL was where they wanted to be to try to recruit shows his commitment there. I think just the optimism and the belief that he has in his team this year, that he thinks they can be really good. Obviously, he sprang to Garrett Nussmeier's defense. Not that anybody was criticizing him, but, anyone who doesn't say that he's the best guy in the SEC and maybe the best guy in the country, he's willing to put that out there. So I think that what you get is a guy who knows how to win and really believes that this is a big opportunity for LSU coming up this fall.
And, yeah, he made a great point about Arch Manning, too. But I really thought it was cool when you told your having dinner with Bobby Knight story, and Brian told his dinner about his dinner story at Gino's there. That was
Yeah.
interesting. Did you see that coming at all, or?
I didn't know. It was really funny though, because, I've been in Gino's a few times over the years with people who carry some weight in the LSU athletic world. And that's pretty much how it goes. They wait until you finish your meal, which is always a spectacular one. And then they come over. So it's certainly not to the level they would come to the head football coach. But, I didn't know that he would have a story to match that, but that is true. Coach Knight used to say it, and it was always jokingly. I never saw him treat anybody poorly, like
Obviously we've all seen it on video over the years, when he might go off. When I was working with him, people come up to him. He was always gracious, but he always had that little joke when they would start with the, I'm really sorry. He's like, no, you're not, or else you wouldn't have done it. So, BK, I think, said he might steal that line at some point.
After listening to Coach Brian Kelly, what were your thoughts about this LSU football team heading into the 2025 season, and maybe how have they changed? Do you look at this team? I think most people here in Baton Rouge feel that this is a college football playoff team and one that can seriously make a run at a national title. How do you look at it, Reese?
I think they have all the ingredients to do so. I think that any time you bring in as many key parts in the portal in their first year in the program, there is a fair question to ask about meshing, chemistry, roles, all of those things. But I see no reason why it wouldn't work out that way. And I think LSU has a great shot not only to make the college football playoff, but they will be a contender to win the SEC. They've got a veteran quarterback. They've got a quarterback who is not afraid to throw the ball into tight windows, which I love. And sometimes that does lead to, he's going to throw some interceptions. The ones that Brian talked about of like, we can't do that one. I think you live with some of them because of the big plays that he's going to make, but then there are some of them that let's check it down and have a better shot on the next play to make a big play maybe. So, but that's an ingredient that not everybody has. And in college football, if you're going to win big, it is very helpful if you have a big time playmaking quarterback. And LSU has that, because there will be moments when you need your quarterback to make a throw that not many others can make. And LSU has the guy who can do that as well, if not better than anyone in the country. So that's a great place to start. Obviously, they need Weeks and Perkins to be healthy and to play in positions and in roles that accentuate their positives. And I think they're going to have that. And they need the transfer weapons on both sides of the ball to be pass rushers or receivers to make the impact that they expect. But look, I think this is a team that can win the SEC and that can contend for a national championship.
Heading into this year, Reese, I know this is a very emotional one for the ESPN College Game Day crew. What are your thoughts as we're, about about 2 months away here from the final show with Lee Corso? And it's already been announced, the final College Game Day with Lee will be in Columbus, Ohio, so a place that he's very fond of. But just what's going through your mind when you stop and think about, just one more show with the great Lee Corso?
Gratitude for having 10 full seasons with him, the guy who built the popularity of College Game Day, the guy who really changed the way college football analysts approach their job. Now, there were other guys who used humor. Bino Cook, who was on with Lee in the early days, was certainly a guy who did that. But I think in terms of cultural significance in the world of college football, there's no one who's been more important for the explosion and popularity of College Game Day and the sport on television than Lee Corso. How many times have people gotten mad over who he's picked, asked a question on Fridays, who's Corso taking, what headgear is he going to put on? And I'm very grateful for the time that I've been able to share that desk with him. And I have a great deal of gratitude for being a part of it and for what he's built. And also for the way he embraced me when I moved into the host role. It was I tried to be gracious about it, but my first year on the job there, I got a little tired of, the questions that sort of insinuated that I'd never done television before, or that that we hadn't had, I hadn't done things in front of crowds. And I think that while people were looking at that as a new thing, Lee didn't look at it like, let's make the new guy prove himself. He was sort of like, hey, okay, here we go. Reese Davis, sweetheart. All right, we're going to kill him. And that was the way he approached everybody who came into the show. And I learned a lot from that. I'd like to think I'd always looked at it that way, but to see it exemplified from someone of his stature, I think is something that reminds you to approach things that way. And, he just has been a remarkable friend, a great cornerstone of the show. He built the thing. And as I told him, we had a dinner, the Home Depot, we did some Home Depot commercials, and LC was there, and the people at Home Depot had a dinner to show their appreciation to him in Atlanta a few weeks ago. And, like I told him, I said, everything we do on Saturdays is, from this point forward, is going to be because of what you built. And, we won't ever forget that or stray from that. And the mantra of it's entertainment, sweetheart, football is our vehicle will continue to live on because of LC. So it'll certainly be different without him around. And we'll miss him for sure. But overwhelmingly, it's just, the gratitude that I feel for what he allows us or allowed us to do by building the popularity of the show.
You got another former coach there too, and Nick Saban, Reese, who's already got a Emmy, and he's going to be in Natchitoches a week from Saturday to go into the Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame. They've been trying to get him for a few years. He's finally going to make it. But what's it like being a part of Nick Saban's early broadcasting career?
Boy, he's extraordinary. I knew he would be great. I didn't know he would be immediately extraordinary. He understands television. I think he's the best communicator I've ever seen in any setting. If you see him in a boardroom type, motivational type speech, he's brilliant. You saw him in front of his team, and I had the privilege of being able to see him talk to his team at different times over the years. It's remarkable. The way he interacts with people one-on-one. He is a gifted and skilled communicator. He's gifted, and he's also worked to hone his skills. He's curious. He wants to know what he can do better. He not one time has said, hey, wait a minute, let me show you my 7 rings. All of you shut up and listen. Not once. He's an extraordinary teammate. And, man, I mean, it is great working with him. He has been such a huge addition to the show that I don't think College Game Day has ever had anything like that. Now, LC was an accomplished coach and did a great job at many difficult places to win and was, coming out of the USFL experience when he started his television career. What College Game Day got in Nick Saban was the greatest coach in the history of the sport at the pinnacle. Now, I know they didn't win the national championship his last year, but they certainly could have. And they were right there, and there was no reason to believe that it was going to slip. People who say they were slipping are engaging in some revisionist history based only on the excellence that he had created. They weren't going anywhere. And so for him to step from that into television and to do it at the level at which he did was absolutely remarkable. And I expect it to only get better in the coming days as he continues to find different ways. And I think the most fun thing about it, guys, is I hate to ramble on about him and blow all the sunshine up his skirt. But I think the most remarkable thing about it was that you guys have been around him. You know him. You know he has a wicked good sense of humor. You know he loves to bust chops. And for America at large to see a little bit more of that in a different vein, was really a lot of fun. And the Odd Couple pairing with he and McAfee, was great. I've used this analogy a lot. The Odd Couple was a hit on Broadway. It was a hit in the movies, and it was a hit at the television show. And it's also a hit for any underlying theme of any number of television shows. So when you have Nick Saban and Pat McAfee, and all of a sudden these guys get along great and have this great chemistry, it was tremendous. And Nick deserves a lot of credit for that, as does Pat.
Well, Reese, it's been amazing to watch Nick Saban and Pat McAfee, and we're all going to miss Lee Corso. But the show is appointment viewing, I think, for most of our listeners here and anyone that loves college football. Thanks a lot for your time. We really appreciate it, and keep up the great work over at ESPN.
All right, guys. See you later. Thanks a lot.
That is the great Reese Davis from ESPN. We'll take a break. More of Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Welcome to the Chevy Lightning Round. Guess the clues to win. First team, you're up.
Powerful, commanding, unstoppable.
Silverado.
Adventurous, fun, techie.
Trailblazer.
Stylish, nimble.
Tracks.
Innovative, electric.
Blazer EV.
Lightning Round champions. You've guessed all the right Chevy clues.
Wherever the year takes you, explore it together in the Chevy of your choice. See your Super Chevy dealers today.
How you doing? This is Snoop Dogg.
Tiger Rag Radio.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, you are tuned in.
Talk LSU sports, interviews, opinions, and your calls around the Tiger Nation.
Baton Rouge was a life for me. Home with LSU Tigers.
Now more Tiger Rag Radio.
We love to score and get highlights and championships and play to win.
Tiger Rag Radio.
Welcome back here to Tiger Rag Radio. Special treat to have Reese Davis from ESPN on our Max Home hotline as we're inside the Super Chevy dealer studio. Jeff Palermo, Todd Horn, and Glenn Gilbo. Glenn helped arrange that interview with Reese Davis. Good job on that one, Glenn. That was certainly a good get.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, Reese is a nice guy and really talented.
No, he certainly is. He certainly is. All right, let's talk about, as it stands now, as we're doing this show, Zach Root has settled down after nearly giving up a big first inning. Arkansas leads it 2-0 in the third over UCLA. There's a good chance that LSU will play Arkansas Wednesday night, and Arkansas will need to beat LSU twice to eliminate LSU. LSU needs just one more win and to eliminate Arkansas and advance to the championship series. So what does LSU do as far as the starting pitcher on Wednesday night, Glenn?
Yeah, that's really going to be interesting because, you can't start Cade Anderson. Obviously, he's just had Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday off. And if they lose Wednesday, you're going to have to come back with Cade on Thursday with shorter rest than usual. But on Wednesday, I think they're going to go with Jaden Newt, and Zach Cowan, and DJ Primo, and Cooper Williams, and any Maverick Rizzi, whoever they can bridge the gap to try to get that win. I think you're going to see maybe a few guys, unless Newt or Cowan really does well.
What do you think, Todd?
Well, I agree. One question I do have for Glenn, something you just said. You said if LSU were to lose Wednesday against Arkansas, since that's who we're pretending is they're going to be playing, if Anderson comes back on he would come back on Thursday. You're burning him for the championship, right?
They burned Paul Skeens for the championship 2 years ago. He didn't pitch in the championship series. He pitched in the game to get them there. So, yeah, that would be the same strategy.
Yeah, so that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I actually think it's going to be Cowan who gets the start tomorrow night for LSU.
And then, if that happens and they do have to use Cade on Thursday, then, they could start Ianson on Saturday because he would have pitched Tuesday, but not that much on Tuesday, and he would have had 3 days rest. Then you come back with Kaysen on Sunday, and you could possibly come back with Cade Anderson on Monday, depending on how much he pitches on Thursday. Because if you remember, Skeens was going to close in the championship game against Florida if they needed him, but they didn't need him, and he was going to close. But because he had pitched a lot on that Thursday, so it's going to be interesting just see how it works out.
So the real key for LSU to maintain an advantage that they have from being in the undefeated and in the winners bracket is to get a good solid performance from Cowan, Jacob Myers, Maverick Rizzi tomorrow, and be able to beat Beetle Cheese or whoever else. I think it would be Beetle Cheese that Arkansas would start tomorrow.
Yeah, and that way, then they can start Anderson on Saturday, Ianson on Sunday, and then have, Kaysen ready to close if he needs to, and then maybe start on Sunday or do something on Sunday if they need him. The key is for their staff to win the game on Wednesday, whatever combination of pitchers they might need.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting between Newt and Cowan because neither of them pitched very well their last time out in that Little Rock Regional. Newt pitched a game that LSU lost, and then Cowan pitched a game where LSU found themselves down 5-1 and had to come back to win. So it'll be very interesting who Jay Johnson goes with there. There's also the possibility, depending on how the game goes, Glenn, that we do see Anthony Ianson in a relief role maybe even Wednesday night. If LSU needs 6 more outs and they've already burned through Chase Shores and some of these other guys, don't forget Jacob Myers is still another guy that they could potentially turn to. But if they're 6 outs away and they got a 2-run lead, I would not be surprised if you saw Ianson in there if Jay thought that was their best option.
Right. He threw 44 pitches on Monday. Yeah, maybe. He could come in. I think there's a chance that could happen, and he's used to doing that role a couple of times. So he's definitely got a lot of options.
I can't believe he flirted with him potentially coming in on Saturday. I thought that was a little. Yeah, I thought that was a little bit much.
Yeah. Well, it's so important to be 1-0.
I agree. So. And Jay said it today. He said the worst thing you can do in this tournament is start looking too far ahead.
Yeah.
And when I was having discussions with LSU people, during the rain delay, a lot of people were saying, well, you can't use Case and Evans because who's going to pitch on Wednesday? Who cares about Wednesday? You got 6 innings. You got 6 innings to go, and you got a 2-run lead. Finish it. Yeah. And the best guy to finish it with was Case and Evans, and that's exactly how it worked out.
You might see Ianson tomorrow for the same logic you might have seen him on Saturday.
Yeah.
Last Saturday.
Maybe so. Hey, Glenn, all right, is that it for you tonight? Are you heading to the steakhouse?
That's it. And as soon as Rabelais finishes, he's meeting us over there. So
all right, man.
Tell him thank you. All right, thank you, guys.
All right, stay off the bread, man. Save room for the steak.
Okay.
All right.
Good advice.
The editor for Tiger Rag Magazine and the mayor of Omaha tonight, Glenn Guilbeau. When we come back, Scott Rabelais will join us here on Tiger Rag Radio. Stay tuned for that.
June is jumping at your East Baton Rouge Parish Library. Take part in the Summer Reading Challenge with incentives for kids, teens, and adults. They also have events galore for all ages, like Movies on the Plaza, the Cool Careers Summer Series, and so much more. Check out details online at ebrpl.com. That's ebrpl.com.
Tiger Rag Radio.
The details do matter. Every step, every hand on the ground, every route, everything that we do has a purpose. We are really focused, and our attention to detail is going to be unmatched.
Back here on Tiger Rag Radio, Jeff Palermo along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horn. We're inside the Super Chevy Dealers studio and going back out to the Max Home Hotline and going back to Omaha. Scott Rabelais, who, of course, covers LSU athletics for The Advocate and NOLA.com, Times-Picayune. He joins us now on Tiger Rag Radio. Scott, thanks a lot for spending some time with us on a Tuesday night in Omaha. How are you doing?
I'm fine. I've finally got a little time just relax in my hotel room before going to dinner. So I'm watching the game, watching Arkansas, UCLA on TV, and see if they get through this game with the weather. Hopefully the weather holds out, and LSU can play them on time tomorrow.
All right, Scott, so my first question is, since you're watching a game, did you see UCLA try to steal home with bases loaded?
Yes.
Was he safe or out?
They went to the replay. I mean, I thought he was safe. Well, they must see the replay.
I think he was safe too.
I've never been a big fan of stealing home. Okay, I just think it's such a high risk, low reward proposition. But that's the kind of ball they like to play at UCLA. So we'll see. But the guy there was on the court a wild throw, and the guy just got picked off at first. He rounded the bag too far, and the UCLA is kind of beating themselves right now, if you ask me.
Yeah. So Scott, how many years is this for you in Omaha?
this is my 9th College World Series.
All right. So that means what was your first one with LSU?
My first one was 1996 when Warren Morris hit the home run. I remember sports editor Butch Muir said, "Yeah, you're going to go to the World Series." I said, "Great, that'd be cool." I always kind of wanted to go, and then he hits the home run. I'm sitting in the press box at Rosenblatt, looking right down the right field line from my seat, just exactly down the line, and I see the ball go out. And of course, eventually, it dawns on me pretty quickly that I said, "Well, this might be the highlight of my career right here. I'm 29 years old, and that's it." So now I put that 1 or 1A with watching Mondo Duplantis in the Olympics last year break the world record, to win the pole vault gold medal. He had already won the gold medal, but he broke his own world record again. And he's broken it several times since then, as y'all probably have heard. So, including in Stockholm in the last couple of days. So those are 1 and 1A for just a single moment in my career to cover and to attend. But that was something, and I'll never forget it. So I've been 96 and 97. This is the first time I've actually been in 8 years. I didn't come 2 years ago. We were in Italy,
right?
And my daughter had just graduated from St. Joseph's Academy, and so we were there. They were choir, and they were touring. They sang at the Vatican. We're in Assisi, Italy, watching the championship game in the middle of the night on the hotel balcony. And so I wrote a column about it. It was a lot of fun. I probably should put a link up to that.
Well, and just so you know, in 1996, when he hit the home run, they won that game in the most famous play in college baseball history. I was on the right field line, and the ball went right past me. And that's
I did not know that.
Yeah, it's the last
and
thing.
You and I went to college together. We worked at the Reveille together. I did not know that you were right there.
Yeah, I was living in California, and I flew in, hung out with Rob Bushmack and some of my friends, and had too much fun. They didn't have Jello shots back then, which is probably a good thing.
That wasn't a thing. I had two. We're doing some videos. We got Lady of the Lake sponsoring our coverage, so we're doing some videos, and so I had to. And of course, they're kind of pre-made now. Apparently they're different from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I had to experience it. So let's scratch that off my list of things to do.
Well, Scott, tell me, how does this team, talent-wise, skill-wise, personality-wise, just overall compare to some of those great teams that you've been to Omaha with LSU in the past? Yeah,
I mean, the 1997 team was amazing because they hit all the home runs. Still have the home run record, right? 188 home runs in a season. Never win a game without hitting at least one home run in 70 games that year. And of course the 2023 team, you'd have to say with two guys who went 1-2 in the draft, like Skeens and Cruz, that you have to think that that's probably the most talented team. This team's got some stuff too. They play tremendous defense. I remember a lot of those Skip Bertman teams. Skip's philosophy is kind of like, I'm putting the best 9 hitters in the lineup, and then we'll worry about the defense. And we kind of joked covering that 96 World Series. Well, LSU made an error today. Okay, they're going to go on and win now because every game they're making an error, multiple errors. And these guys play really good defense. I mean, and defense travels, like they say in all sports. It really does. So, obviously, I can't remember an LSU team having this 1-2 pitching combination that they have with Anderson and Ianson. They're the only team here in the field this year that's got 2 double-digit winners. And then you throw in Case and Evans, who just seems to be pitching beyond his years. Obviously, he seems to be an ace of the future for LSU, and he's just been tremendous already. Probably could grow a better beard than Jay Johnson can. I would imagine. So I don't know. I mean, we're gonna see. I mean, they've been consistently. I think they suffer a little bit by comparison to the 23 team because of those superstar players on that team. But yet, they hit pretty well. They got depth of pitching. They've got a lot, and they play great defense. So I don't know. I think it's obviously to be considered a great LSU team, you have to win here. You have to win it all. Murray State's going to go home and say this is our best team ever, and of course they went 0-2. That doesn't fly at LSU. So we'll see, but time will tell. But I think they're on their way.
And it looks like they're probably going to play Coastal Carolina, wouldn't you think? How much have you been able to check out the Chanticleers? Did I get it right?
Chanticleers.
How much have you been able to watch the Chanticleers here over the last few days, Scott?
A little. I mean, I haven't seen too much of the other bracket. Although I was at the stadium today when Louisville tried to blow that game against Oregon State and pulled it out in the ninth inning. But they talk about depth of pitching. They're the only team that has a better ERA of the teams that made it to Omaha this year than LSU. Of course, they got this long winning streak going on. Long winning streaks concern me in the postseason, though. Basketball or baseball, it's like the pressure mounts. I mean, the pressure mounts to be perfect. Look, they've had a fine season. They've got great numbers. That's a team from the Sun Belt, though. That's not a team that played in the SEC. I'm not trying to be too down on too much, but that's true. But I thought they're the team that was going to win that bracket already. It's now that Oregon State's out, and Louisville. I think Louisville's okay, but they're not great. They're not a great team. They're a very, very scrappy team. But I don't think they're going to beat Coastal twice. I think it's going to be Coastal in the final. I think it's going to be LSU, and I don't think these kids. And before we say anything else, I don't think these kids care a fig about the fact that Coastal beat LSU in the Super Regional 9 years ago.
Well, it'll be fun to write about.
Well, it will be, but they were 10 years old, 10 years old when that happened. So what do they care?
Yeah. I thought that was interesting because Anthony Ianson was interviewed, I guess, 2 days ago, and they were talking about his UCLA background. He grew up in Los Angeles, and he went to a lot of games, and then somebody said, well, UCLA played LSU in 2013, and they beat LSU, and Anthony looked at the camera and said, 2013. I was like 4. It's funny. So you're right. They don't care. But Scott, what do you think about Arkansas? It looks like you said earlier, UCLA is kind of beating themselves. It's still 2-0. But what do you think about Arkansas starting Zach Root tonight and not trying to save him for a game that they would have the clear advantage if he was able to pitch tomorrow night against LSU, which is probably going to have to go Johnny Holstaff?
It's a little puzzling to me because obviously they can't throw Gage Wood, and it's certainly not in the starting role. I guess you could always throw somebody for an inning, but not in the starting role after the no-hitter that he had. Again, in either game against LSU, assuming they play Wednesday, and if they had to play Thursday, obviously LSU just needs one game to advance. But I'm a little puzzled. I mean, I understand that you've got to get there. I was wondering about how would they use Case and Evans? Would they hold him in reserve in case they had to play the game tonight, like UCLA is playing, or play tomorrow? And Jay was like, no, we're going to put him in, and he's going in long relief, and he's going to. They're gonna use him that way, and that's fine. But Root's coming out. He didn't pitch much, obviously, against LSU. That's true. But you're right, Todd. I think I would. They supposedly have a deep staff, and the guy wants to pitch again. And I understand. It just seems to me, and I don't know the situation. Obviously, it just seems to me that Dave Van Horn is giving in a little bit to the emotion of the situation of a pitcher who wants to redeem himself, instead of doing what is maybe strategically the best thing. But I think it's to LSU's advantage because, like I said, they should miss both of those guys if they had to play 2 games.
Scott, I know you're late on your dinner, so thanks a lot for spending some time with us. We appreciate it, and it should be fun over the next few days to see how this all transpires. Thanks a lot.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me. Take care.
All right, Scott Rabelais, longtime advocate reporter who has covered LSU since the '96 World Series. Is that right? Is that what he said?
He said that was his first World Series.
Pretty good. All right, we'll take a break. A couple more segments to go from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio. This is Tiger Rag Radio.
And we're back with Tiger Rag Radio, live from Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Jeff Palermo, along with the executive editor for Tiger Rag Magazine, Todd Horn. Early on in this hour, we had Reese Davis on. Man, it was a pleasure to have a chance to talk with him, from obviously the host of ESPN College Game Day. And if you have not listened to maybe there's a new podcast by now, but last week's podcast from ESPN College Game Day, they did a great breakdown of the House settlement. And then they talked with Brian Kelly. And as we had Reese on, really Brian Kelly was a perfect guest for them to have on after the House settlement, because Brian Kelly is the active winningest coach in college football. He's been doing it for 30 years. And here you got a new era of college athletics. And he's a smart guy, just like Reece said. And the thing that I like about covering Brian Kelly is that he's very open with you. He's very transparent with you, and he tells you what's on his mind, unlike a lot of coaches that you deal with. And he's even less guarded when it's June and they're not preparing for a football game next week. So he's really giving some free thoughts to it. And there's a lot of things, interesting things that are said during the interview about making a mistake and trying to make Harold Perkins an inside linebacker, Garrett Nussmeier, and why he would take Garrett Nussmeier over Arch Manning, and a lot of good topics that they go over. But I thought one of the more intriguing topics was there's a lot of coaches, if you had lost 5 straight openers, that would just come in and say, you know what, it's just another game. What happened what happened against Mississippi State in 2020 doesn't really matter. Brian Kelly is taking the opposite approach. It's his mindset. It is time to win a season opener. LSU has not done it since 2019. We are putting our chips in. I think there's a couple of reasons why. We saw the frustration when they lost last year to USC in Las Vegas and pounding on the table. I think the other thing is because you do have these transfer portal players coming in, and you got to get this team to mesh quickly. You're really, I think, pushing down on the gas pedal to say, hey, guys, we got to get our act together. We got to be ready. We got to have our T's crossed, our I's dotted for week 1. We can't wait until week 5 when we play Ole Miss or whoever they're playing week 5. They got to be ready to go week 1. And they are not afraid to talk about the fact they've lost the last 5 in a row, and it's time to end the stretch or the streak of losing the season opener.
I think you're right, and I was surprised because that's the way I felt about it too.
Yeah.
I felt like this is over. They've got to break the streak. It's important for the reasons you said.
Right.
For this team, they've got all these new players coming in via the transfer portal. They filled in their gaps. Brian Kelly went on the record at the end of last year saying we're going to cash in the whatever how he phrased it, receipts. We're going to cash in the receipts. We're going to be in the national championship.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it starts in Clemson, South Carolina on August 30th, which is a little more than 2 months from today. And Clemson may be at that time the number 1 ranked team in the country. LSU's going to be in the top 5. And Brian Kelly's saying enough of this. He's got T-shirts printed. Yeah. He's got it circled. He said he's never done that before. Yeah. This is an important.
It's in the locker room. It's in the team meeting rooms. It's beat Clemson.
Yeah. They're focused on that. Now, is that smart?
Yeah,
because
I don't know.
if they lose, all right, I think it is smart because I think it doesn't matter. If you don't put an emphasis on it and you lose, you still lose. If you do put an emphasis on it and you lose, you're still in the same place as you were before. So you might as well put an emphasis on it. He wants for this team to hit the ground running and gather the momentum.
Yes.
The momentum for the season. And he sees that, he senses that, and he's talking about that.
Yeah, I think the word momentum is important because in that interview on the ESPN College Game Day podcast, he said it's important to get, and I'm paraphrasing here because it's been over a week since I've listened to it, so I don't know word from word, but basically we need to make sure our fan base is behind us after the first game of the season. Not to say that everybody, we know, we've all lived through the losses to USC, to Florida State. It's not like everybody's jumping off the bandwagon, but we all know it takes a few weeks after a loss like that to get everybody charged up, ready to go, and thinking, okay, maybe this team can do something. How about win the first game, really get the mojo going for what is a tough schedule still ahead of them after they play Clemson.
It is. It's a very tough schedule, and they're going to need that momentum and that the confidence that will bring that team. Team. And so I'm excited. I'm excited that he's putting that much emphasis on it.
Yeah, again, check it out on the ESPN College Game Day podcast. Let's take a break. We'll wrap it up. When we come back, we'll give our final thoughts as again, LSU just 3 wins away from an 8th national championship. More coming up here on Tiger Rag Radio.
Tiger Rag Radio.
The details do matter. Every step, every hand on the ground, every route, everything that we do has a purpose. We are really focused focus and our attention to detail is going to be unmatched.
Final few minutes here on Tiger Rag Radio. You know, it dawned on me earlier today. This is Jeff Palermo along with Todd Horn. I was on with Kevin Foote on one of our affiliates on the ESPN Southwest Louisiana stations in Lafayette. It dawned on me this morning before LSU played UCLA or resumed its game that the season could have ended today.
I know, how weird would that have been?
I mean, it was just, yeah. I mean, like I spoke it and I didn't even think about it. And I'm like, yeah, you know, it could be all over by the end of tonight. Well, it's not, you know, we still have, you know, 3 more. I think they're going to be able to get to the championship series. I'm very interested to see if it's LSU and Coastal Carolina, how this matches up. I mean, to me, I think it would be fascinating. I'm not, you know, I know everybody's going to say, okay, they've won 25 in a row, but they're from the Sun Belt. I know that's what everyone's going to say, but I don't know. There's something about this team, this Coastal team, I think it's scary for LSU to go up against.
I think it's their pitching.
Yeah.
I mean, they have a better ERA than LSU staff. LSU has the best ERA it's had since 2015 or whatever it is. But I do think that this team LSU is very talented. I think they're playing well in all 3 phases of the game right now, offensively, pitching-wise, and on defense, of course. But I think their skill is what sets them apart. It's not just the talent, it's their ability to make plays, offensively especially, when they need to, and their approach, which I've appreciated for all season, but I'm really seeing it like come to play, especially on this field, you know, and in this stadium, if you will.
They have such a high baseball IQ, you know, and, you know, Jake Johnson's made the comment several times, LSU isn't for everyone, because you better be, if you come to LSU and play for Jay Johnson, you better be all in. Yeah, you have your academics and stuff. You got, you know, there is that part of it.
Well, now, maybe not next year, but anyway.
But you better be all in, and you better be, and if you're just kind of got a half a foot in or 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and you rather, you know, after the games, you rather go out and, you know, do this or that. You know, he loves the Derek Curios of the world who are texting him at 11:30 at night, asking him about an at-bat in the 4th inning. That's the kind of guy that he wants on the team. And maybe that's a little bit of extreme, but there's a lot of guys on this team that are like that are just baseball smart, and they soak it all in.
Yeah, they live, eat, and breathe it. And that's what you're seeing happen on the field right now. It's almost like second nature, because it is second nature for these guys to know how to you know, approach offensively at the plate. I mean, they're making the other team, it's tortures for the other team.
Right. They're hard to beat. We'll see. So next time we're with you, LSU could be national champions again. So we'll find out. For all the coverage, check out TigerRag.com. For Glenn Gilbo, Jackson Blackman, Todd Horn, I'm Jeff Palermo. Thanks for listening. This has been Tiger Rag Radio from the Super Chevy Dealer Studio.
Tiger Rag is everywhere. Online at TigerRag.com. Like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/TigerRagMagazine. Or follow us on Twitter at Tiger_Rag.